city of Christchurch, that's on the southern island of New Zealand. And police are saying that these attacks were very well planned. The shooting started at around 1:45 p.m. local time. That's when the mosques are very busy with people attending Friday prayers. The attack lasted around 5 minutes. Police say 41 people died at just one of those mosques. Many of the victims are thought to be refugees. Now, witnesses say the gunman wore black military-style clothing. Police also found 2 bombs in one car, which didn't go off. They're being defused. The Prime Minister of New Zealand, Jacinda Ardern, has condemned these shootings as a terrorist attack. And police have since detained 4 suspects. They were arrested immediately after the shootings. One man in his late 20s has already been charged with murder. Authorities have not named him, but an Australian man is being linked to the attack. This man also posted a lengthy anti-immigration manifesto online in which he claimed responsibility. A graphic video of the shooting was also posted online. That has been removed, but it is sadly still circulating. Police say none of the suspects that they have detained so far were on any previous terror watch lists. Now, at least 20 people were also injured in these shootings. They were rushed to hospitals for emergency treatment. Police have cordoned off the area. They've urged people to stay indoors for now, and as night falls, that city remains in lockdown. Now, New Zealand hasn't seen a mass shooting or any kind of mass shooting in at least 40 years, so this is certainly the worst the country has ever seen. The security alert has now been heightened, but for now the country remains in shock. Back to you guys.
All right, Kitty, thank you very much. You're right about the security being heightened. Manifesto that Ainsley's got in her hands. He wired up his cars. There were a couple of IEDs on his cars, and then he live streamed the whole thing on Facebook. Went 17 minutes. We're not going to show the guy's face. We're not going to tell you his name. He wanted notoriety. We're not going to give it to him.
Well, this manifesto, if you read it, I mean, he answers questions. He highlights questions that he thinks that you at home might want to ask him, like, what are your wishes? What do you encourage us to do? He talks about socialism, left wing, right wing, birth rates. And he said he started planning this 2 years ago after the terror attack in Stockholm. That really set him off in 2017. And he says this was to avenge the deaths of his people. He wasn't planning on doing this in New Zealand until he visited some of the mosques in Christchurch. And he said he sees that there is a problem there, too. Basically, he says he doesn't hate Muslims if they stay in their countries and they don't invade his land.
Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez put this out on a tweet. At first, I thought of saying, imagine being told your house of faith isn't safe anymore, but I can't say imagine because of Charleston, Pittsburgh, and Southern Springs. What good are thoughts and prayers when they don't even keep the pews safe?
Oh, yeah, some of the churches here in New York, you have to stand in line, and it takes a very long time to get into the sanctuary because they're using wands and metal detectors to make sure you don't have anything that's dangerous.
Yeah, absolutely. Apparently, he was able to live stream this thing on Facebook, and Facebook has taken it down, but it is floating around on the internet. Apparently, he had a GoPro on his helmet, and you can see he turned it on as he headed toward that first mosque where he killed 40 people, and you can hear him say, let's get this party started. And then he pulled up and he started firing, and then he pulls away. We are getting into our newsroom right now some of the video where a hero cop actually pulls him out of his car, and we're going to be showing that to you very, very shortly.
Just tells you how sick he is that he thinks murdering this many people is a party while they're in their mosques.
It's unbelievable. Anyway, we will keep you posted on what is going on down in New Zealand on this Friday morning.
All right, 4 minutes now after the hour. Let's change gears and talk about what happened on Capitol Hill yesterday and that Immigration Border Patrol action. The president is trying to get done to repurpose money in order to secure our border. So he did it, and the Senate went out, the House went ahead and said, we're going to disapprove this, and the Senate did too, by a count of 59-41, with 12 Republicans deciding they cannot support the president on this for constitutional reasons. I don't know one Republican, and if Democrats were given truth serum, I'm sure they feel the same way, that doesn't think there's a crisis or an emergency at our border, but the president tweeted this out. He didn't go out for revenge. He didn't rebuke. He didn't warn. He said this: I look forward to vetoing the just-passed Democrat-inspired resolution, which would open borders while increasing crime, drugs, and trafficking in our country. I thank all the strong Republicans who voted to support the border security and our desperately needed wall.
Well, the night before, Lindsey Graham, Ted Cruz, and Ben Sasse showed up unannounced at the White House, and the president was having a dinner, and they tried to talk him out of vetoing and instead adopt a compromise. And I'm told the president was really steamed that they showed up and tried to talk him out of it. I mean, this is one of his core issues. He has said there is a crisis at our southern border, and we have shown you many people who are professionals who say exactly that.
Well,
and for these Republicans, these dozen Republicans, to fly in the face of the leader of your party, you know, you've got to figure they're going to take some flack from people who voted for them.
Yeah, well, you might want to know who these senators are if you live in their states. It was Rand Paul, Mike Lee, Susan Collins, Lisa Murkowski, Lamar Alexander, Mitt Romney, Jerry Moran, Pat Toomey, Rob Portman, Roger Wicker, Marco Rubio, and Roy Blunt. Senator Romney said that it's about the Constitution, the balance of power. This has nothing to do with border security, because he says he does support a barrier. Tom Tillis went in there. He was going to oppose this, and he changed his mind at the last minute. The Republican from North Carolina, he says he's sympathetic to the president's push. The president really wanted this measure he really wanted to have his emergency order supported by these, especially Republican senators, but they weren't all on board.
They're worried about a Democratic senator, Democratic president that would want to do things that are against something a Republican would want to do, like do something, emergency action on climate change, and take some money from one pot and say, hey, President Trump did that back in 2019. Meanwhile, Senator Lindsey Graham, also a lawyer by trade before he got into politics, said the president had every right to do this.
Process to reject his decision. That process is happening right now. The president will prevail, but I don't think for a moment they're not sincere. I just disagree with their analysis, and we're going to keep building the wall. It means that he's dead serious about building the wall, and if a Republican or a Democrat gets in the way, he's willing to build the wall.
A lot of people might want to say that the president's doing this and just exercising his power, that I'm in charge. Don't forget that. But when you hear Tom Homan talk, and he said, no, the president really believes this is an emergency. And he says, I've worked on the border. I know that this is a crisis. I know that there's an emergency. And when you see these images of people throwing children over the fence to distract the border guards so that smugglers and migrants can come through, that is an emergency. If you're a parent, imagine if that's your child.
And keep in mind, the president has the power to do what he is doing. So what happens now that they have approved this resolution of disapproval, now it's going to go to the president's desk where he's going to sign it. It's going to be like, I'm not going to sign that. That's bad for me. He's going to veto that. And then what's going to happen next is he's going to take some of the money that he has already told us about, and he's going to say, I'm going to use that to build the wall, and then there will be a court challenge. This could take 6 months, it could take a year, it could take years, but nonetheless, as he runs for president then, the president's going to be able to say, look, I did everything I could, I even vetoed that thing, there were a bunch of Republicans who voted against me, I'm doing what I promised I would do, and that's why I'm fighting for that.
And they are building portions of the wall. Mark Morgan was on with us earlier and says Congress has failed. This is policy, not only barrier, it's policy. Listen.
Congress has failed to do its job to protect this border. The politicians know this is a crisis. This was purely about politics, identity politics, political ideology. They know there's an issue at the border. They're failing to do their job. So if I had 2 seconds with the president, I'd look him in the eye and say, thank you. Thank you for doing what other people have not done and failed to do to protect our border. I absolutely hope he vetoes this.
Some of these senators that voted with the Democrats, maybe their thought process is, I want to follow the Constitution. In my opinion, I feel like I have to follow the Constitution and power of the purse rules, but they still support the border wall and they still support the president. So maybe they're just doing that so that they can go back and look at their voting record when it comes time for the election and say, we did the right thing according to the Constitution.
And the president does not have to veto it. He could use the $1.3 billion that Congress has appropriated for the wall. Plus, there's like $3 billion in a couple of funds at the Pentagon and the Treasury in accounts that can be tapped for an emergency
But he's going to veto it.
So he could do. Doesn't have to veto
it out right after this vote came down at 316, one word, veto.
Yeah, so stay tuned. Let's see what happens.
The House should have done this 2 years ago, and they put the president in this position, led to lockout as well as this.
And that's why the president says, thanks, Paul Ryan.
Yeah, 10 minutes now after the hour. Thanks to Jillian Milley for showing up today. Russ, I'd be tossed on an empty camera.
You are welcome. Just for you. That is the only reason I came here today. Happy Friday. Let's get to this Fox News alert right now. And we are following some serious news. A rocket attack on Tel Aviv may have been a mistake. Israeli media quoting defense sources saying the rockets may have been fired during routine maintenance. Overnight, Israel retaliating with 100 airstrikes on terror sites in Gaza. The Israelis targeting several Hamas sites, including its headquarters and where they store weapons. An all-out mafia war could be brewing in New York City after mob boss Frankie Cali is gunned down outside his home. Reports this morning, authorities are eyeing John Gotti's brother, Gene Gotti, another member of the Gambino crime family, is 6 months out of prison and could be looking to get back into the family business. Police believe Cali was lured outside his Staten Island home by a staged car crash. Let's talk now about extreme weather. A powerful winter storm triggering several tornadoes across the Midwest and Alabama. A fierce hailstorm slamming southern Indiana. Look at that. One tornado completely gutting a western Kentucky church. The bomb cyclone that paralyzed the Rockies moved into Nebraska, dropping heavy snow and rain. And in Colorado, a family of 4 rescued by strangers after being trapped in their car for 12 hours. Alex Trebek is thanking everyone who's wished him well in his battle with stage 4 pancreatic cancer.
For the kind words, the prayers, and the advice you have offered, I'm a lucky guy.
The 78-year-old Jeopardy host who revealed his diagnosis last week says he received messages from hundreds of thousands of people, and I'm sure that will continue to grow. Evan Watson, the IBM computer, sent Trebek a get well soon card. So those are going to continue to keep coming in. I mean, he's beloved by so many people all across.
What a great attitude, though. He says, I'm so lucky, so fortunate.
Some experimental drugs kept Jimmy Carter alive. Maybe it's going to do the same thing here.
Yeah, we'll see.
All right, thanks, Jillian.
All right. Meanwhile, what's it like to work for Amazon? One former employee calls it hell. You'll hear from her coming up.
Wow. Plus, stop playing the national anthem at sporting events. It's a column in USA Today. Joey Jones lost both his legs in Afghanistan. We bet he's got something to say about
Before sporting events, well, according to the USA Today sports team, the national anthem is a lazy form of patriotism. They argue it's time to stop playing the national anthem at sporting events in the United States.
The piece says, quote, the kind of faux display of national pride better suited for countries run by dictators or despots.
All right, so here to react, retired U.S. Marine Corps bomb technician, lost both his legs in Afghanistan. Joey Jones is with us. Joey, you read the column in USA Today. Your thoughts? Is it faux patriotism?
No, it's not faux patriotism. She makes some good points. We get lazy about it, and nothing bothers me more than when someone's walking around and chewing gum, or like she said, hitting one of those smoke machines during the national anthem. But at the end of the day, isn't that more reason why we should demand or at least put societal pressure on one another to respect it, stop what you're doing for a moment, and remember, hey, there are men and women that lost their lives for this. One thing I would say to her is that when I'm at one of those sporting events, it means something to me. When Gold Star moms and dads are at those events, it means something to them. And for that reason alone, it's worth something that we should continue to do.
Well, go ahead, Steve.
I was going to say the last line is, if we truly want to honor those who served our country, then how about ensuring our veterans have adequate health care, improving underperforming schools so every child has an equal shot, and prohibiting discrimination in all forms.
As if it's an either or. As if we can't respect.
You can have everything.
And I can talk for days on that. We can talk about vouchers and school choice and all those things that would remedy those problems. But for a moment, why don't we come together before a sporting event, something that is nothing more than a game, yet we put all this passion into it, and that anthem right before this game reminds us, wow, there's something bigger than this. Right. All this passion we feel we could put into each other.
People are reacting on social media. Catherine says, no way. Those are the moments that the true patriots harmonize together. I've always been super proud to be an American. Another lady, Mary, says she gets goosebumps and she tears up, thanking the brave men and women.
A lot of people do.
In this piece, she says, imagine if before a concert, the band stopped and made you attend the national anthem. Well, listen, I work for a country music star, and he does something to honor patriotism at every single show. And we bring out a veteran or a service member on the stage, and then you have 30, 40, 50 at the National Football Championship, 90,000 people screaming USA. It means something to those people. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, and the other thing is, when else are you going to do it? So they say it's a faux start of patriotism. Okay, we don't go to school anymore. There's no Pledge of Allegiance to start the day.
Yeah.
So at national anthems, when you go to a major or small event, national anthem is a great way to ground people.
It's an opportunity of unity. I won't even get started on rather not kneeling and those things. We still do it. We still respect it. And rather than because the bottom 10% doesn't observe it, let's scrap it. How about we put a little bit of pressure back on that bottom 10% to, this is why we do it. Explain it to them. Reach a hand out and get them to observe it with us. It means a lot to me.
This is all part of USA Today's series, Things We'd Like to Change in Sports. Something I'd like to change in sports? How about if beer was less than $25 a glass? Just saying.
Or hot dogs.
Yeah,
you know,
right. But you still spend it, Steve, and you'll have 7 or 8 of them, and it comes out of your kid's college fund.
That's my kids went to college.
Okay, good.
Joey, you'll be on Fox over the weekend?
Yes. We'll do the Gutfeld show and maybe later today on the network. Yeah.
All right, very good. Thank you, sir.
We always love having you here. Thank you for serving all that you've gone through.
Thank you.
The Covington Catholic students family has already sued the Washington Post and CNN. Are more lawsuits coming? We're going to ask the attorney coming up.
Plus, the IRS could actually owe you money, but you had better act fast. We'll explain coming up next.
Time now for some news by the numbers. Let's get started. First, $1.4 billion. That's the amount of tax refunds the IRS has been waiting to be claimed. The refunds belong to taxpayers who didn't file a return in 2015. If those taxpayers don't file by April 15th, the money will go to the Treasury. Good, we need it. Next, $15,000. That's how much UFC fighter Conor McGregor faces in a lawsuit over smashing a cell phone. The victim accuses McGregor of stomping on the phone while he tried taking a picture of him in Miami at 5 in the morning. McGregor is charged with strong-armed robbery and criminal mischief. And finally, $500. That's the cost of this woman's purse as she begged for money. Police say the fake bum was also carrying an iPhone while claiming she had no money for her baby's diapers in New Jersey. Again, New Jersey. Go figure.
This video of an encounter between Covington Catholic student Nicholas Sandman and Native American Nathan Phillips went viral in the media, and the attorneys for the student just filed a $275 million lawsuit against CNN, accusing the network of vicious attacks. This comes after filing a lawsuit against the Washington Post for $250 million.
Could more lawsuits be on the way? Let's talk to co-counsel for Nicholas Sandman, Todd McMurtry, who joins us right now from Cincinnati. Todd, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Let's start at the beginning. Why are you going after CNN and the Washington Post?
First off, the Washington Post was the first media outlet out of the gate with the story. They were the first one to cross over from Twitter to the media. And secondarily, CNN is, of all the offenders, perhaps the largest, with a very significant following, with serving approximately 450 million households worldwide with 41 million Twitter followers. So they have great reach in what they do. So that's why we picked those two first.
Are more lawsuits on the way?
Absolutely. We will continue to roll out lawsuits, about one a month. We anticipate that we will have 12 to 14 lawsuits total. After that, we may look more broadly at people on Twitter who attempted to dox Nicholas Sandman.
Right. And so, Todd, there were a lot of people who went out when the video first went viral, and people got the story wrong. They said that your client got up in the face of the Native American and was mocking him. As we have seen in subsequent videos, that was not the case. He was simply standing there, and the Native American, Mr. Phillips, walked up to him. So you're suing people, organizations that put the story out there and never corrected it, right?
Correct. I mean, first off, we think that people that went with the initial unsourced video, which had gone viral, they did so without any reasonable reporting. Some organizations, their reporting evolved, but for example, with CNN, while their reporting evolved, they did not report the entire truth, and they've never apologized or retracted for the lies that they put forth in their reporting.
Todd, I remember when you guys, when all this was unfolding, you said, look, this story has not been told accurately, but if you come out and you apologize and you get the story straight, then we won't sue you. Has anyone apologized or come out and said, look, we're sorry, we didn't know the whole story when we reported it?
No one has actually apologized to Nicholas Sandmann. The Washington Post put forth an editor's note that did not apologize. It merely corrected the reporting but was inadequate. As we go forward, we will give media organizations an opportunity to retract and apologize as allowed by Kentucky law. But so far, no one has apologized.
And Todd, finally, ultimately, you're trying to send a message here, aren't you? Because these are gigantic sums of money you're asking for.
Correct. We put out a video which is called Nicholas versus the Media Giants, and that video really proposes the following ideas. One, that Nicholas Sandmann is absolutely innocent. Number two, that all of us in this country have a shared mutual interest in having media that reports accurately. And three, that through this lawsuit with Nicholas Sandmann, that we intend to hold the media giants accountable. So it is a David and Goliath fight, but we do intend to fight it.
Okay. Todd, thanks for being with us.
Thank you.
President Trump set to veto the measure blocking his emergency declaration for the border. Congressman Adam Kinzinger was just deployed to the border and says the emergency is real, and he's on deck.
Good morning, Congressman. Plus, part two of Brian's exclusive with Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, what the Secretary reveals about our tech race against China. Coming up.
On high alert. 49 worshipers gunned down in what's being called a terrorist attack. It happened at two separate locations, two mosques. Many of the victims are believed to be migrants or refugees, 4 people in custody.
Police say one Australian man has been charged with murder and will appear in court tomorrow morning. He is said to have an anti-Muslim and anti-immigration agenda and apparently a manifesto he posted online.
Video of the attack was uploaded on social media, but authorities are urging people not to share it. The Prime Minister is condemning the shootings. Let's bring in Adam Kinzinger, Congressman from Illinois, Republican, Lieutenant Colonel, U.S. Air Force Reserves. Thank you so much, Congressman, for being here. What's your reaction to this?
That's awful. I mean, you know, anybody being attacked is terrible. When you focus on somebody because of their faith at a place of worship, it's especially disheartening. I was in New Zealand, I think about a year ago now, and it's just not a place you'd expect to see anything like this. So thoughts and prayers, and we mean it. Thoughts and prayers are impactful. Please pray for the people that are going through this.
AOC says don't say thoughts and prayers.
You know what? When she says that, when I saw that, it just doubled down my determination to tell people to do it. Prayer means something, and faith means something. And I think even though we may all have different faiths, let's all stand together at this moment.
What do you make of the fact that this guy was able to live stream on Facebook for 17 minutes? You know, so many up on Capitol Hill, you're constantly talking about these social media giants and what they're putting out there. The fact that he would be able to do that, he wanted notoriety, and he showed the carnage.
Yeah,
it's shocking.
It gives me chills because it's one of the areas our committee's trying to deal with is what's the balance between your freedoms, your ability to do what you want on social media, versus people that try to seek fame or notoriety through something like this. I mean, we remember an elderly man that was killed on live stream because somebody wanted to do it, and I don't know how to get a hold of this, but we've got to get to a society where people quit trying to chase this fame, this hollow fame, whether it's through horrible actions or anything else. Just, you know, be confident in who you are, go ahead with your life, and this is just incredibly
Well, that's
evil.
why we don't want to use his name, because we don't want to give him recognition. I have a friend that lives over there, and we were texting last night, and she said that in their school system, in their schools, you just walk right into school. We've seen those changes here on our campuses because of terrorist attacks that we've had here in the United States. Is this going to change the way they do things in New Zealand?
It could. We don't wish it on anybody, but you know that's the point when you have evil folks, whether they're white supremacists or whether they're Islamic terrorists that see an opportunity to kill innocent people, comes into their mind, they do it.
Ambassador Scott Brown is going to be joining us in about 40 minutes from New Zealand, and former senator from Massachusetts. Here's what Sarah Sanders has just put out, a statement from the White House. The United States strongly condemns the attack on the Christ Church. Our thoughts and prayers are with the victims and families, and we stand in solidarity with the people of New Zealand and their government against the vicious act of hate. Meanwhile, the president was occupied yesterday with what was really a rebuke of his effort to use emergency funds, repurpose funds, in order to do massive border security. 41 senators voted with him, 59 didn't. If you were in the Senate, how would you have voted?
Well, I'd have voted with the 41. I think the president has a right to a national emergency. I think it was the right thing to do. That's how I voted in the House. I saw it. I was on the border with the military for 2 weeks, and because the cartel makes money on two products: people and drugs. Human trafficking, drug trafficking, and that's what's coming over the border. I saw it on almost every mission, evidence of human and drug trafficking. That's got to stop. They are a prime enemy of the United States. The assaults they're committing on women, the violence in the communities, it's evil. And I think the president is right to secure the border. I understand the wrestling that every senator had to go through, but I think the president
was the Constitution.
Yeah,
I don't think one Republican doesn't believe it's a crisis.
Right, and so I get it, I understand it, but I think the president is well within his rights on this, and he didn't create new money out of thin air. He just repurposed money from, for instance, counter-drug to a counter-drug operation.
What do your Democratic friends say when, I know what they say on camera, they don't support the president, they don't think this is a crisis, it's manufactured. Do they really believe that when they see all the video and they hear all the stories?
It's amazing to me when I came back and started kind of sharing my experience. I said, I'm not here to convince anybody, I just want to tell you what I saw. People would actually question whether I saw what I saw. So at that point, I'm like, obviously, you can't win. I mean, I'll be honest to who I am and tell you what I saw, but...
But Congressman, you know that before Donald Trump, nobody ever had the argument, a wall doesn't work. Right. Now, of course, it's big, it's inefficient, it doesn't work.
They all voted for it 12 years ago. But this isn't your dad's Democratic Party anymore. This is a whole new different Democratic Party. This is the one where half of them, sit on their hands when the president says we won't be socialist. That could never be imagined even 3 years ago in the Democratic Party.
Why is that?
It's a rush to the left. It is.
Right.
It's sad.
One thing Democrats and Republicans agree on, that 5G, we have to be the ones to pioneer 5G, because if the Chinese and this Huawei are able to do it, especially with our allies, they'll have a backdoor to all the intelligence. We have to question whether we're going to actually give our intelligence to our allies in that way. I asked the Secretary of State that about 5G, why we should care, and why our allies aren't listening to us. You told the Poles, you told the Germans, do not do a deal with Huawei. It's about 5G, it's about security. It looks like they're going through it anyway. What would happen if both of our allies decide to go with a Chinese company to lead the way on 5G?
Huawei and Chinese telecommunications equipment in one's network, in a nation's network, presents a real risk that the Chinese government will have access to data that no American wants them to have. We have urged these countries to reconsider those policies. We view this technology as being threatening to their security, and we've told them, if you put this technology in your equipment, it will make it incredibly difficult for the United States to work alongside you in some of these places.
What don't they get?
I don't know, and the Secretary is obviously really smart on this stuff. You cannot share information with allies when you have a basically Trojan horse infrastructure by your chief enemy, and that's the situation we're looking at. They're giving it to you cheap for a reason. I mean, there's a reason Huawei's the cheapest stuff out there, because they get something for it.
Right. Too bad a U.S. company just couldn't be leading the way, but they're ahead of us right now.
That's right.
All right.
That's right.
Congressman, thank you very much for stopping by.
Thanks for being here.
Thanks, guys.
And thanks for your service.
You bet.
And I'll talk to you on radio.
All right, yeah.
Hey, Jillian, first the ball is yours. You ready for it?
I am ready for it. Let's go. Let's take it away with the headlines, starting with this. A Georgia Senate committee hears emotional testimony on the controversial heartbeat bill. The legislation would ban abortions after a woman is 6 weeks pregnant or when a fetal heartbeat is found.
My parents said, even if our child is blind and is deaf and does have mental struggles, our child has value. Our child's value is not lost simply because they're sick.
Opponents are concerned the bill will not stop abortions, but instead force women to seek unsafe legal procedures. The measure now heads to the Senate for approval. Governor Brian Kemp has already pledged to sign it. Several 911 calls released of Amazon employees committing suicide inside warehouses. A former Amazon worker reveals to our Tucker Carlson about the trouble she faced while working there.
I mentioned something about driving my car off of Eagle Mountain Dam because I was worth more dead than I was alive. That's the kind of mindset that they put you in, is you're not important.
Allen says workers must make up the time spent on bathroom breaks to receive their full day's pay. A California college is ending its only study abroad program with Israel, and Democratic Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib is backing the decision. Students at Pitzer College demanding the University of Haifa change its entry restrictions, along with granting visas to Palestinian universities. Programs to other countries like China, Turkey, and Cuba are still running. Recently, Tlaib was caught holding a folder with the hashtag #SuspendPitzerHaifa on Twitter. You can see it right there. Let's look at your headlines. Send it to you.
A busy day.
Yep.
All right.
Got a grandmother in Gaza, she says.
All right, let's go outside where it's kind of a damp start to the day, Janice.
It's a damp start, but look at this amazing crowd that I have here with us today. Oh, happy Friday. And we've got some newlyweds here from El Paso, Texas. Hi. Anyone in New York?
We
Definitely. Want to say hi to anybody home? Hi, Mom. Oh, excellent.
Okay.
And look at this over here. You've got every single book that any Fox personality has ever come out with. Unbelievable. Thank you. And hi, how are you? Good. Thank you for coming. Let's take a look at the maps real quick. I'll show you that cold front that's moving through New York City. We've got 52. Cooler air behind it. This is what that bomb cyclone brought us. Severe weather yesterday. Hundreds of reports of hail and damaging winds. A couple of tornadoes. The cold front moves through today. We'll get some colder air, maybe some snow across the Great Lakes. But you know what? First day of spring comes next week, my friends. That's a pretty good deal, right? Okay, say hi to everybody at home. Big waves to all these beautiful people that came out at 7:30 on Fox and Friends. Yay!
Thank you. Happy Friday.
It's going to be up to 60-something here
It's
today.
going to be nice. Yesterday was nice, too.
All right. Thank you, JD.
All right. Meanwhile, 18 minutes before the top of the hour, lawmakers in the UK keep resisting Theresa May's plan for Brexit. What's going on? Even though the people voted to leave the EU, Nigel Farage came up with the idea, I think. He says it's a warning for Democrats trying to undermine President Trump. He's here to explain next.
And Beto Maya is running wild over the media. Is it a preview of what to expect in 2020?
He's had a glowing start.
Seeing him is like, it's like a Jesus Christ superstar seeing.
The EU. President Trump says the continued debate is ripping that country apart.
I'm surprised at how badly it's all gone from the standpoint of a negotiation. I think it could have been negotiated in a different manner, frankly. I hate to see everything being ripped apart right now. I don't think another vote would be possible because it would be very unfair to the people that won.
Nigel Farage is a Fox News contributor, former UK Independence Party leader involved in the Brexit. He joins us live from, as you can see, London. Nigel, why is it so hard for your country to figure out how to do this? The people said, although it was close, let's get out of the EU, and yet you still haven't.
Yeah, you're right. We unequivocally voted to leave, and we're due to leave 2 weeks today. And the problem is, hundreds of our members of parliament didn't only vote the other way, but have never, ever respected the result and are doing their best to overturn it, to frustrate it. And in the middle of all of this, Theresa May has made the most unholy mess of the thing by putting on the table a document that is completely unacceptable. So, we should, under our law, leave in 2 weeks' time without a deal, without a new treaty, and that's fine. But Parliament now says it wants to extend the date. And, you know, this is one of the oldest functioning democracies in the world, and our democracy is being walked all over. It is one of the most shameful episodes in the history of my country.
Well, and I know Theresa May, she didn't want to see Brexit. She didn't want to see the British exit from the EU, and now she's in a pickle because now she's got to preside over figuring out how to untangle. Do you see any parallels, Nigel, between what is happening in your country regarding getting out of the EU and here in this country and the political left's reaction to Donald Trump?
Absolutely, it's the same game. You know, both Brexit and Trump were huge seismic shocks in the political arena, and just as our MPs here don't accept Brexit, and many of them want to stop it or overturn it, in America, you've got large sections of the media and of the left who do not accept the legitimacy of this president, do not believe he could possibly have won by fair means, come up with endless conspiracy theories about Russia or whatever else it may be, and I think the parallels are remarkable. The old globalist order is not enjoying this massive democratic revolution that we're going through.
Since the British exit vote, Nigel, have there been public opinion polls? Have the people of Great Britain changed their mind? Yeah, we said yes, but now maybe it's a bad idea.
Absolutely not. And in fact, by far the most popular option is for us to leave in 2 weeks' time with no deal, but the Prime Minister appears to be very reluctant to do that. The House of Commons doesn't want us to do that. In the end, it's up to our Prime Minister. If she was bold and brave, we can still leave in 2 weeks' time, but I'm afraid she's buckling to political pressure, and it looks like there's going to be a delay to Brexit, and that's going to make this country very, very angry indeed.
Nigel, you got a mess on your hands.
We have got a mess on our hands because our politicians do not accept the will of the people. That is the basic problem. But I'll tell you something. If worse comes to worst and they make us fight this battle again, we'll win next time by an even bigger margin.
Well, the world is watching to figure out what happens next. Nigel Farage joining us right now from London. Nigel, thank you very much. Thank you, sir. All right, meanwhile, the media falling in love with Beto O'Rourke all over again.
He's had a glowing start.
Seeing him is like, it's like a Jesus Christ superstar seeing this guy.
Announcement that he's entering the 2020 race will shake up the Democratic primary.
Bring up all this energy and really excite people.
He's had a glowing start.
His Senate candidacy winning the endorsement of celebrities like Beyonce.
Seeing him is like, it's like a Jesus Christ superstar seeing this guy in front of people. He's got that celebrity aura about him.
Beto O'Rourke officially running for president, and the media's Beto-mania is back in full swing. Senior writer for the Heritage Foundation and a fellow for the Independent Women's Forum is Kelsey Bolar. She is here to discuss this. Hey, Kelsey, thanks for being with us.
Good morning, Ainsley.
Good morning. What do you make of this? They're saying he excites people, he shakes it all up, he's like a Jesus Christ superstar, and has celebrity aura.
It's pretty crazy, isn't it? And look, when you run for president, you're supposed to be a man or a woman of the people, not a man of the press. And that's exactly what Beto is doing. Unfortunately for him, the press is not representative of the voting base in America, but the press is certainly working overtime to give him flattering coverage of his rollout, which, to be honest, wasn't that impressive with an online video and a Vanity Fair cover. So I think, you know, they're treating his rollout, which is a serious thing, in a very unserious way by fawning all over him. And the unfortunate part of this is that distracts from the fact that we don't actually know where Beto O'Rourke actually stands on most of his policy positions, because when he was a member of Congress, he was actually quite moderate, voting with President Trump 30% of the time, even on border security legislation. And now he's out there acting like this far left progressive, and Americans don't know where he is.
Well, here are some of his positions. Anti-border wall, voted against ICE, voted against Kate's law, voted against Trump tax cuts, supports single-payer health care, voted against restrictions on late-term abortions, voted against sanctioning Iran, and called law enforcement the new Jim Crow. Now, the media was fawning all over him when he was running against Ted Cruz, and he lost that Senate seat. Is that why? What is it about him that they love when he wasn't able to win Texas and win that Senate seat and doesn't have much experience?
They, for some reason, think that Beto is the next Barack Obama, which is just not true, because Beto does not have the experience that Obama had.
What if Biden gets in?
I think he will give Beto a run for his money, and I wouldn't be surprised in the future to maybe see a Biden-Beto ticket. But in that rollout video, Beto actually called he said, if immigration is a problem in America, it's the best problem we have. And I think that is incredibly insulting to all the angel moms, families who have lost loved ones due to illegal immigration. Beto lives in El Paso on the border, and I think that it's really unfortunate that he's not taking some of these policy issues more seriously and taking into account both sides.
Okay, Kelsey, thanks for being with us.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Breaking news overnight, 49 people dead after that terror attack in New Zealand, and President Trump tweeting